So hello everyone for um, to another expert session. And our guest today is Frederick Birk, who's the head of retail media at Kevel. Frederick brings a wealth of experience in the rapidly evolving retail media landscape, particularly following Kevel's recent acquisition of Nexsta, which is the company that I got to know Frederick from, and several other companies. His insights will be invaluable as we explore the cutting edge developments in this field. Before we begin, I'd like to extend our sincere thanks to AirMeet for hosting this conversation. And if you want to know more about AirMeet, they have an amazing platform for communities and for event hosting. Check them out on airmeet.com. So, also, I want to introduce you to Eric Mourão, who's the founder of Retail Media FC. It's a renowned podcast in Brazil. He's interviewing Brazilian thought leaders, but also international ones. So, Eric, thanks for joining us today. And we're going to be talking about the evolution of retail media, market dynamics and growth, operational considerations, strategy and implementation. And also, just to make sure that everyone here in our audience, you know, is connected. We have some people who are, it's the first time that they're joining us. So this is, we always have a conversation. It's more like a podcast conversation format. And our audience is always very welcome to join us after around 30 minutes. So Frederick, welcome. Thanks very
Thank
much
you.
for making time. And I always like to start with a different question. And the question that I have for you is
Uh-oh.
uh, with the rise of retail media networks, there is
Mhm.
growing concern about the concentration of power in the hands of a few major retailers. Some critics argue that this trend could lead to a pay to play model where smaller brands are priced out of visibility. So, how do you respond to fears that retail media might actually harm competition and consumer choice in the long run?
Great hardball question to begin with. No, it's quite an interesting dynamic. I completely agree. But I don't agree with the premise of that there will only be a few winners in retail media. Retail media will have what's brilliant about retail media is that yeah, the big both retailers and brands will will win. But so will the long tail, the very small retailers and the very small e-commerces and the very small brands as well. So there is traffic and there is data utilization and monetization that you can do um, everywhere, no matter if you're large, big, medium, whatever. So yeah, I think it's more a democratization of um, of the market than it would be a monopolization. So you've had Google and Meta that have controlled digital advertising the last decades, but now retailers are rising up to say all retailers can now do this moving forward, and having this kind of retail media strategy and generate revenue and delight their customers, etc. So I think that there'll be a lot of winners. There won't just be a few. That's my point of view.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. So it's a great answer. So let's start with your career. I mean, you built you're Danish, and you built a very interesting career at Amazon, also in the retail media at Amazon. So how about we start with your journey, and then we talk about Kevel and why
Mhm.
Kevel acquired Nexta, and then we get at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I started in marketing, both in retail and in private brands, and then moved into sort of product management, and then gained a lot of knowledge on Amazon ads, so retail media at Amazon as well, and really got to understand how you know sponsored product works, how product ads work, and how sponsored brands, how like the whole strategy behind it, because we needed to grow different brands on Amazon. So that was a brilliant experience where I was there for about 4 or 5 years in Amazon and gained a lot of knowledge there. And then I saw Nexta's vision of enabling this for all retailers. So exactly to my previous point, that you want to democratize this and not just have, Amazon is winning right now, but we are seeing the market that there will be a lot of winners with this self-service platform and scalable solutions that are being built um, to all kind of retailers. So that's, from the Amazon side, that was sort of the schooling of what retail media is and how you do it in the best way. And then to Nexsta, where I also got to my homeland and saw my family a bit, etc. That which was nice, but then really saw that okay, for the long tail, the smaller retailers, how do we build that up from the ground up as well, and utilize all those elements and techniques and mechanisms and sophistication that Amazon is doing today. So and then yeah, your other question of why Kevil then acquired Nexta, I will leave until the next point. But yeah,
Yeah,
so that
perfect.
was
I no, thank you, thank you. And I think it would be actually interesting to explore a bit of what Nexta was doing, because then
yeah,
we have the perfect segue, to understand what actually Cavill is doing and why they've acquired you guys.
absolutely. Yeah, good point. So what Nexta have been doing for the last 8 years is building a self-service platform. So an ad manager, you can say, for um, for retailers, publishers, and marketplaces. So so think of like the ad manager on Meta or the ad manager on Google, and then just have that for omnichannel, and then for one business. So if you go to your local supermarket or your cosmetic retailer or whatever you might go to, then know that they can scalably have one platform to book all their advertising across channels or on-site or in-store, etc. So this self-service platform is what Nexa did and or is doing today as well. And now that we became Kevel. And where we could give real-time reporting and we could give first-party data usage where you would create audiences and target those audiences on Meta or third-party systems in general to ensure that your targeting will be optimized. And there's a lot of AI tools as well that are being used for the creative creation and completion, etc. So it's all these tedious jobs that you have had in the ad ops team where you now can automate those tasks really. And the ad ops, I recommend everyone to see the ad ops or the ad creation, the ad builder that Nexta has, because it's just like interacting with ChatGPT, but then you create amazing images and amazing ads as well. So it's really yeah, next level for these retailers to create a retail media super easily and scalably. Yeah.
Mhm. Interesting. You when we were exchanging um, the topics for this conversation today, you mentioned that this we're living the third wave
Mm,
of digital advertising.
yeah.
um, I spoke to Alessandro, who's a very interesting guy. He's very connected to SaaS. He's an Italian guy who
Mhm,
works for Financial Times. Well, consults Financial Times. He's he works pretty much with subscription and monetization strategies for some
mhm.
large newspapers and media companies. And uh, so, why is it that we're living if you could talk about the why is it this is the third wave in terms of
Yeah.
retail media, and why there's so much talk about first party data today
Mhm.
opposed to third party data.
Yeah. No, super good point. So first, I think a lot in the space it knows this is the third wave, but it is if you look at digital advertising today, there has been sort of three trends or three waves, which is first it was like search and Google, and everyone wanted to buy ads on Google because that's where everyone was, and you would be where everyone were, right? So therefore you bought ads first on search, and then it became social media as well. That was the next trend. That was the next wave, where everyone bought digital advertising and had great tracking, etc. But all of these, also connecting to your second question, all of these are reliant on third-party cookies that
Mhm.
Google and Meta and all these platforms and channels have. But the third wave, we're just seeing that it's going at the same rate as the other two, even actually more exponential than the other two were at this stage. And that's because that we're utilizing first-party data. So where third-party cookies, as we have been using with Google and Meta, they're being phased out, right, due to GDPR, etc. But now you can utilize first-party data from the retailer. So when you go into a retailer and you're looking at a grocery retailer, you're looking at milk and then you're looking at coffee, then of course if you have given consent, then your data will be tracked on, you've looked at this and then you've looked at this. So that kind of data is more reliable than if you would be on Meta or Google, etc. So it's it's much better advertising moving forward. And I just think that it's brilliant that we're moving that direction,
Mhm.
because then we're avoiding this case of having super, sorry, pardon my French, but shitty ads.
Mhm.
And just having something that is, completely irrelevant and where it's just noise. But where we're seeing today that you get a good recommendation, or you see things where it's much more relevant to you. And that's because you're relying on more reliable data, really. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That yeah, and forgive me if my questions they seem too simple, or
No, no, no.
but at Evolve, like as I always say, we don't necessarily go deep into retail media, and in order to go deep, I try eventually to invite an expert
Perfect.
who
Yeah.
can ask the let's say the burning questions and also add value to the discussion. But we have in the community. So, for example, Rafa here is an Amazon specialist. Is doing Amazon ads, and we
Mhm.
have two new members. Davor and Mihaela. They're doing AI things. Maybe they know a lot about this specific topic. I'm not sure. But I think it's also interesting sometimes to bring perspective to the discussion. So they can connect, or other members can connect the dots and say, that makes sense. So,
Mm.
for example, they're implementing AI solutions, and that they can have also arguments when they're talking to their customers, right? So, um, um, Eric, uh, perhaps maybe more like a contribution, and if you can share with us what you're seeing from your discussions in Brazil, what Frederick has shared so far. Is it reasonable? I mean, do you see the same in Brazil? In Brazil, I think ad spend is quite high. In Latin America, right? When I see some of the studies, perhaps some considerations. And if you like to ask a question as well, you're most welcome.
Yeah, sure. Perfect. Yes. Firstly, the when you mention about the importance of first party data against third party data, it's people sometimes they underrate, they don't pay attention on this, but it's huge. Like
Mm.
retailers know exactly what to buy. Uh, Facebook and Google, they know what you browse. So there is a huge difference. Like it's
Exactly.
yeah. So this is something that is very important to mention and to educate people about this, and people then will understand the importance of retail media. But my
Mm.
question here is regarding the first question when you were mentioned the importance of mid-sized retailers, how they can get the technology of the big techs. And recently, Amazon has launched the retail ad service. Yes, I
Mhm.
think it's retail ad service that their
Yep.
product. So,
Mhm.
unless to give a context to the people, like in January, Amazon offered to all retailers they can get Amazon technology. They can implement their technology to run sponsor ads, to run
Mm.
banners and everything. So it's a huge move. It was a hot topic. Everybody was discussing about this on NRF. I
Mm.
would like to listen about your perspective about this and what do you think it's going to happen? Do you think it's going to get traction or not? So it's a hot topic in the industry. I would love to hear your take on this.
Yeah, no, great question. And when it first came out the news, I was static over it, like ecstatic. I was very happy to hear the news and thought, okay, now it'll be affordable for all retailers to do this. Um, and they mentioned as well it's democratization of advertising. Here, because Amazon has the size that it does, maybe it's more monopolization that we're talking about. But it's for I think it's a brilliant move. Um, I do think, however, that it will not, because people are starting to be like, okay, can Amazon be too big? Then they're more afraid of going into Aras or Amazon retail ad service. Um, so like to begin with, of course, it's only in the US, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's in America, and then it will be launched later in globally. But I do think that a lot of retailers will hold back. That's at least what I hear. Um, that a lot of retailers will hold back due to too much power in one company, and all of a sudden that you don't own your own data and that kind of thing. So there's a lot there where if you would choose other competent either ad servers or um, just retail media solutions, um, then you would be more safe for your data. So I mean, this is not something that I would know. It's just the experience and sort of the vibe or the chatter that I'm hearing. And I do agree with it as well. So I do think that Amazon, you have a closed loop system and GDPR, etc. There's a lot of regulation, and all of a sudden regulating a mastodon like Amazon will be very difficult, whereas it's more controlled, that you can have it in more perfect competition between tech providers than one giant. But I did when I was in Amazon myself, I was chatting with colleagues about we should do this, So it's I think it's the right move, but I think it will either take a lot of time or it won't be implemented globally as you would think when you saw the news that they would just take it over. Yeah, that's my prediction. But it's not supported by data, only by you know anecdotes here and there from retailers. Yeah.
Very cool. And we were also talking about the what BCG and McKinsey predicts in terms of profit
Mm.
margins for retailers in retail media. And I think it would be interesting if you could comment about it. I remember that I attended to I think it was a breakfast. Yeah, it was the meetup we had in London, and then Cornelia from SAS, she was
Mm-hmm.
talking about how banks are now taking advantage of retail media as well, because well, it's an I think it's kind of like an obvious case. They have the direct, they have so many customers in their customer base, so they have the data. So I think if you could educate us in terms of some business cases, so there's this massive opportunity. Like, are we talking about new revenue streams that retailers can have from retail media? Are we talking about, because you mentioned not having crappy,
And
ads anymore?
yeah.
Are we talking about also a new opportunity? So, for example, I think about, let's say, Netflix and the whole opportunity in the future that there is for me as I'm watching a movie or a car there. Somehow I can see 007, and somehow that car
Yeah.
is related to my taste. Is that what we're talking about, that level of personalization, or am I going too far?
No, no, no. It's a great point, and yeah, obviously, I've been chatting a lot with Cornelia from SAS Institute as well, and who is a great influencer within
Mhm.
retail media, and and I think like this, just to first touch on the profitability point, and then go into to banks and commerce media and finance media, etc. That that when you're looking at the first two ways, so Google and Meta, for example, so social media and search. I love what you said, Eric. Like, and I've used that as well. Search knows or Google knows what you search for. Meta knows what you like, but retailers know what you buy. So that's why, like, this evolution. But to touch on that first, that Google and Meta, over 80% of their revenue. I actually saw the numbers from 2024, I think it was, but where it was above 90. But now I'll just say above 80% is from ads
Mhm.
for those two companies, right? So like that's that's their entire business. And it's so mind-blowing. We keep on forgetting it a little bit, I think, but where, retail, we have just thought, we're just selling products. Um, but now you have this entire business model that Facebook or Meta and Google have been utilizing before, where they've created their entire business upon. Um, and now retailers are saying, okay, we have better data than what Google and Meta has. How come that our business shouldn't be bigger than Google and Meta? And of course, there is, where are people? So you might spend more time on Instagram than you would in the supermarket, but it's still like you have such huge businesses that I think this 50 to 90% profit that BCG and McKinsey were estimating. I think that's a valid point that you have been working with, what is it, the article mentioned like 3 to 12% of profit margin
Mhm.
today for retailers by selling products. But if you just utilize the data that you already have and then use that for generating new revenue streams and have a better relationship with your brand partners and but also delighting the customers by showing more relevant and ads, plus having actual things that they might not see, because today, like for most retailers, it's the top brands that are winning. um
Mhm.
like if you're in grocery, it's the bigger, Procter and Gamble or Unilever, etc., that just puts the most money in, so therefore their products will be most prominent. But if you're looking at what kind of product are we looking at, what kind of category are we looking at, then it gets specific, and then all of a sudden these smaller brands can win. And that's where this is just fantastic in my point of view, that it is really democratizing advertising. And now it shows, okay, everyone can win in this space. So that's the first point, that you can generate this entire new business with its own P&L, and the revenue will or the profit will come from that. So that's one bit. Um, then on the other, where you mentioned, banks, and like there's all these new terms that are coming up, like finance media, retail
Mhm.
media, commerce media, all these,
Mhm.
and it's just because they're seeing this as well. Like we've
Mhm.
been sleeping behind the wheel, that
Yeah.
you can utilize your data and monetize it much better than you have been able to before, and it's much more trustworthy data as well than what the big ones such as Google and Meta have been using. Yeah.
I think there are many turns that I could take from your answer that I find it super interesting. So turn number one. A couple of years ago, like there was a surge in several companies in Brazil that had a. You probably remember that, Eric. If they had a massive customer base, they would say, "Wow, we could become a fintech as well,"
Hmm.
because
Exactly.
they already transacted data. That's number one, and then the other topic would be about transacting customer data, social media, and new models. So I don't become a hostage to to pay to play, which is Google pretty much. And
Mm,
I I have a friend. He said, "Hey man, I'm a hostage to Google because it's a family business." And he's like, "How can I not become hostage to Google?" And that's where I see the rise of communities. But then you need to again at least collect the email of your customer, right? To get their email or WhatsApp and whatnot, and start that relationship, so you
mhm,
can like. I'm so bullish on communities. That's what we are building here, because
mhm,
I always say, like, I have WhatsApp is number one. I have the direct access to my potential clients. we're facilitating conversations. And this is in the B2B space, but I see no difference. I mean, you can use another infrastructure, and have different fancier terms, but the idea is the same. Like, you want to be close to your potential customers, and eventually, like, you're gonna have a customer base, someone has another customer base. Can you not do a collab there? And then you don't need Google, in that sense. And then you can go live, and so, I mean, are we talking about the same thing?
Could you repeat the question? I'm not clear
No,
on
it
what you're
wasn't really a
asking.
question, but it's more like a rationale, like
Yeah, if you allow me, I know the guy here is Frederick, but the last point that you mentioned, Carlos, is a very hot topic in the industry of retail media. But I think there is a maturity. People are talking mostly on like selling ads on sites, and also
Mhm.
discussion about in-store. But there is also a huge topic here is data collaboration, exactly what you mentioned. So for example,
That's
a CPG brand, they already have some data about their customers, whatever, like Nestle, Unilever, P, P&G, uh,
Mhm.
and they can collaborate with retailers. They can share the data in an anonymized way, so the
Exactly.
retailer is not gonna give their customer base to the CPG brand, but they can enrich this information through data
Right.
collaboration. There's few platforms over there. I'm not sure if Kevin is also doing. I don't want to mention names here, but there are few companies also doing this, and they're very mature digital companies like L'Oreal and Coca-Cola doing this already, even in Latam. They are sharing customer data, and they are understanding exactly, okay, I made a TV very big launch where in each neighborhood, which grocery store I'm selling more, who are my
Mhm.
customers, and they are being able to get this information, which is extremely worth a lot for CPG. So this is already thing. I think this is very important. I think it's a little bit more mature. Not
Mhm.
everybody's going to get this level. I think it's only the big guys and the most mature.
Right.
But yes, it's a great topic that you mentioned, and
I
I will
agree.
let
Mhm.
Frederick talk about data collaboration.
Yeah, no, like so as I think some people also, Rafael here is texting in the group that data clean rooms. Um, because data clean rooms is really a brilliant way for this data collaboration, but also to have to create a secure environment where multiple parties can share analytics and share data, but where you don't have too much of it, or you can't, the what we would all be afraid of is exactly as you said, is being a hostage or being something where like, okay, what am I doing and my data, how is that being used, etc. These data clean rooms is brilliant for you to have like um, a, a safe, let's say, where like you can go in and you can utilize the data. So if you want to create an ad for this demography with this buying behavior trailing 90 days, then you can. But you can't see that, Eric, he looked at this in the supermarket first, and then that, and then thirdly this. So that's where it becomes more secure and where we can rest more in the fact that it's not just an Excel sheet where they can look up everyone and then you just see their entire behavior. There is data clean rooms with high security to make sure that this won't happen. Exactly.
Super. So we are on 29 minutes already. It goes fast, huh? When it's
Yeah.
interesting. So, hey everyone, I kindly ask you to prepare your questions. You can, Gustavo will be inviting you to join us on stage. So it would be really nice to have you joining us, asking your questions and being part of the conversation. So my question, before we start inviting our community, Frederick, is more like, so perhaps if you could share, because we all like to talk about the bigger brands. I mean, it's that they get the
Mhm.
headlines, but I'm interested in the sort of in the mom and pop store, or the D2C company that is doing something interesting. that you can
Mhm.
share. Like some let's crystallize some business cases that uh, companies are using retail media, and perhaps if you could share from your time at Nexsta and now, I don't know, some interesting cases. Those are always very welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's many different cases of small and medium, both retailers and brands, benefiting from retail media. So specific business cases. I won't mention names here, obviously,
That's fine. That's fine. Perfect.
eh, but yeah, that I can give examples. So where a small grocery retailer that would not use offsite to begin with, and then only wanted to use in-app and didn't have a website, etc. But had some generation and some people used their app, then all of a sudden it became more and more a thing that they could engage with the customer. And our previous conversation, I actually think it's quite interesting as well that yeah, there will be things where we can set standards or where we can expect something from the retailer and say, hey, like don't have shitty ads anymore because now we're doing this in a proper way. So if you even have not that much traffic, but you have high engagement in whatever you're doing,
Mhm.
then those ads might be way more valuable than if you have a lot of traffic with very little relevancy. So it's again like all kind of trends are also going into where first it's super big and the big names are the big brands and big retailers, but then there's also the niches. So if you're looking at wine, for example, that there what kind of big brand can you think of within wine? Yeah, we all sort of know there's these kind of grapes, and you might know Vivino and these kind of companies, but um, it's super niche. If you go to a supermarket and you're like, okay, what kind of wine, and then you might be suggested something brilliant
Mhm.
um, that you wouldn't know otherwise. So I would definitely not just say, okay, if you don't have an immense amount of traffic, this is not for you. Of course, the business case gets proportionally bigger when you have larger scale and higher volumes, but it's something that everyone can benefit from.
Brilliant. Thank you. Um, Eric, do you have any considerations? I'll start inviting um, our guests here.
Oh,
Rafa, go ahead.
just a quick question here. Like, what do you think? What do you see as bottlenecks for the retail media growth? Like, we are very bullish. Yes, I'm still bullish, but I see some bottlenecks, and you might see some also. I would love to hear your perspective about some bottlenecks of the growth of retail media globally, and also if you want to talk about your local market, I would love to hear Frederick.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great point to address to address the bottlenecks. And here, um, I think some of the major, at least in my local market, and then I'll go globally afterwards, but in the Nordics or in Europe, there's because of this maturity that we have within retail media, right now, it's not super clear for many retailers where retail media should live. So should it be under market? Should it be under the category? Should it be, under revenue ops? Or what should it be within the retailer? And then, what kind of ad tech do we need in order to make it scalable? Um, and that's where, I don't think we touched upon it, but like Kevil acquired Nexsta because they have all the tools and are super flexible and agile in their offering with app server, forecasting audience, etc. But our self-service and offsite offering was something that they were missing. So they acquired us to be the full unified platform that you can do everything in. And I think a lot of bottlenecks out there are really where should the team be? What kind of tech or what do we need to do to get this off the ground? Um, and there, you can build it yourself and just hire FTEs and engineers to build it, but that's a long journey. Um, or you can have a tech partner involved, and then you can build it much easier. And scale it much easier, but then you also need to think of the activation. So how will you do it with the brands that are selling via your retailer? And do you only include the endemic brands that are selling via your retailer, or do you also include non-endemic brands that might have a relevance to it, right? So, classic example, if you're 7-Eleven, we all know that one, then you have like pretty prominent screens somewhere, and then you might not be selling books, but books could be something that you would have as a non-endemic brand that would be part of that advertising, right? So, yeah, I think that that's the bottlenecks that I see. That because of this maturity, we need to push on for where's the team? What kind of guide can we just give everyone to say, okay, start here, then go here, and then go here. Yeah, I think that's the bottleneck.
Brilliant. Thanks. Rafa, you're an Amazon all-arounder, so go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. All rounder. I don't claim to be any expert in retail media, but it's a discussion that it's really interesting. Obviously, coming from e-commerce and especially handling Amazon, the lines between sales and marketing they're blurred, and retail media is just like it's a natural part of it when in the Amazon universe. But there are quite some interesting topics that has been discussed here. One that I found really interesting is I think it was mentioned in the beginning that at the moment retail media is quite cost prohibitive. You mostly see larger corporations, larger players to utilizing it. But then what I wanted to hear Frederik's opinion is how does he see wouldn't he look at things like social media as a counterpart for the smaller brands that doesn't have the budget for retail media at the moment? So or would it equate, because even if you consider that social media is also an investment, it takes some time to build up. The question is time versus money and
Yeah,
time is money, right?
yeah.
So how do you see this and how do you perceive this?
I think that's a brilliant point. And I, I actually think that I'll even steal a bit of what you said to answer it, because I think that you got it already. That smaller brands, that if you don't have a lot of traffic already or not a lot of knowledge, like how do you ensure brand awareness or sales um, via either the retailers that you're selling through or just in general? And of course, retailers can say, hey, now we're becoming a branding medium or a search medium where you can address that search and branding budget rather than just the trade marketing budget. Um, but I think for smaller brands today, that if you go for a bigger retailer and you say, let's do offsite, because offsite is also part of retail media, right? And then you can utilize the first party data from the retailer and target offsite. So you'll waste less money by doing that, so that you ensure that you can market yourself on Meta, Google, etc., but you'll do it via the retailers. Channels. So, like, let's say on Meta, that you will, as a small cosmetic brand, then you'll see a recognized retailer that sells cosmetic products. Now 10% discount on this retailer. Then it's like, okay, what are these kind of products like makeup or moisturizers, well, whatever. And then all of a sudden you have a way better marketing mix than you're used to, or that you could do yourself via retail media, because of the first party data, and that you also all of a sudden have a partner in the retailer rather than just a selling channel. Um, so I think there's a lot of collaborations between retailer and brand moving forward, um, but it's just to facilitate those bonds to be created, and that
Mhm.
and the maturity, the knowledge on what is possible. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think I pretty much agree with what you're saying. And my next question to you would be: we just saw recently Amazon, specifically Amazon now, talking about them, they're testing offsite campaigns where you have the product. They're not listed on Amazon on the marketplace, but you can see the ad there, and then they come as part of the search result. You click on it, and and the client is directed to the website, to the brand's website out of
Mhm.
Amazon.
Mm.
And this
And
hasn't been
you're
rolled
right.
out yet. They're testing
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
really interesting because
Mhm.
that would open like huge opportunities. And it's
It would.
going back to what we were talking about. The retailers, they have the data. And I often think like Amazon, to be honest, my perspective is like I don't know what Amazon is doing with the retail, and I don't think they would be a retailer for much longer because the retail side of Amazon has never been profitable and it's still difficult to make any profit out of it. The
Mhm.
ads, on the other side,
Mhm.
has been
Yeah,
very profitable from the
uh,
beginning. So
exactly.
Amazon, and then we were talking about how Google, Meta, they know what you search, they know everything about you, but the retailers know what you buy. And that's where Amazon has always been really interesting platform to play with in terms of ads, because they can show the ads exactly at the moment that you're more, you know, tempted to buy something or you're looking for something. So on different stages of the funnel, but still it's very interesting how Amazon has created a technology behind that. So my question would be, what is your perspective on it? Do you think that Amazon is going to be like more of a platform for everyone to advertise? Like kind of, I'm looking at this kind of like replacing Google, because we
Mhm.
have the search engines like Perplexity, for example, that people are completely replacing Google nowadays. And
Mhm.
But Google's whole business is and 80% or
Yeah.
something, or 90%, like you said. But people are moving away because they're finding other platforms, and maybe will Amazon become the platform worldwide for finding products? How do you see that?
It's a great question and a great perspective as well. Yeah, and exactly to your point, it's super interesting, right? Because Amazon has been very close loop that never go outside of Amazon
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like that has been the policy for since its inception, basically. So it's super interesting that they're now seeing this business case that okay, maybe we can let them look at the other website, and then we'll be just a different business. We'll be an ads business
Yeah.
rather than an actual retailer. And it's kind of fun to see that they're moving so fast and moving that route, so that every other retailer can say like, is that the route we want to go, or is it somewhere else? But absolutely, this will be super interesting to see what will happen there, and whether it will be the right business case or not. Time will tell. But I think it's the right move from an Amazon perspective, and loving Amazon as well. From an Amazon perspective, to say, okay, let's not have this policy of only closed loop, because it's kind of telling everyone that we don't want to have anyone anywhere else. And then it's a monopolization and kind of big, the big boy in class kind of bullyishness.
Mhm.
But where it's more sharing, and you can go anywhere. But we have the ads that will show you, or will run everything, right? So that's an example of a retailer becoming an ad business.
Mhm.
Um, and that they actually go outside, because they have said always like, okay, we need to ensure that the product delivery is next day, and cheap products, all this kind of stuff, and they can keep on doing that, but their profit will come elsewhere, right? So it will come from exactly Amazon ads and AWS, etc. So yeah, it's super interesting. That's definitely a retailer becoming now a media house
Yeah.
rather than a retailer.
I also
Yeah,
think that that would open a precedent for other
it will.
marketplaces to follow suit as well. So
Yeah.
thinking Zalando, Miracle, whatever, any Walmart even, or any other marketplace, they will mostly focus on the advertising and become the platform for advertising. Yeah, that would be super interesting to see.
Completely agree. And where I think that, like both, now you're mentioning Zalando, and we're mentioning a lot of e-commerces or all pure online players. What I also think here, just for people not to have to take away that, okay, we only need to be digital, um, that if you go in store as well. So if you have a physical store, I think that has huge potential, in the fact that, you know, then you have digital screens and you have somewhere where you can interact with the customer. Um, and there's also measurements that this is, the big thing in retail media recently, like ROPO, like research online and purchase offline. Like all of a sudden, you can have a closed loop checking, like, okay, they checked this demography first checks on this kind of product online, then they go to Meta and further interact with it, and then they buy it in the store. And that whole attribution loop is super interesting, right? Because now we can just make more interesting ads and do it in much further touch points than you would be able to before. Um, yeah.
That's a very interesting thing. It's actually it just took me back to 2010, 11. I was working for a retailer in London, a shoe retailer, and we were revamping the stores, and we actually created we were working multi-channel, not multi-channel, omni-channel
Mhm,
back then before omni-channel platforms existed. So we
mhm.
coded by hand. We hired a
Okay.
developer to do that. And one thing that we did is we implemented iPads, the first version of iPad, in the stores, because the stores get so busy and we didn't have like enough assistants. If we hire assistants for all the people that come into the store, it's just like filling up the shop floor with sales assistants. So we had these
Mhm.
iPads where people could search for what they're looking for in the store, and they could just also request. And one thing that we did is they just had to fill up their email address. So and they basically create an account in our system, and then we know who they are, and they enter in our advertisable. Now that you mentioned that, that would be a super great way to start, like, use that also as a way to get leads, and then use that maybe as in a data clean room, like we mentioned, just
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
and then
Yeah.
start. There are many creative ways that we could use that. So we
Mhm.
can use retail media as well. Just adding here to what you said.
No, completely agree. And even further adding that, today, if you're asked, like out on the street, if you're asked for your email, then it's pretty like, okay, no, thank you, I don't want to give my email. And and with a retailer, you're like, what kind of benefits am I getting from this? So it's as well, it sets an expectation to everyone, because I think a loyalty club is brilliant for a retailer to have, because you can monetize it in many different ways, and you can give actual value to the customer. Um, and now we as consumers have a bit of power saying, okay, I can give you my email so that your brands can target me with ads, etc. But um, then I also request a bit from you to make sure that I get proper discounts, I get the right ads, and all these kind of things. So that's where it's super interesting that we'll all be able to set higher expectations, and we'll just have more interesting both ads but also data utilization, and delight the customers in a way better way than having these unrelated ads on search and social media that we're seeing today, where it's not really relevant, and we know that that's how it's financed, but we just accepted it. But I think moving forward, we don't have to accept it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, super cool. I don't want to take more of the time. Probably there are other guys that wanted to ask questions, but thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you, Rafa. I
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Rafa. Well, we have some questions here in the Q&A, so I'll show them on stage. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, So whether high-end brands can benefit from these kind of strategies as well. Is that the question? Sorry, it was removed and I was like,
Retail, yeah, it's saying that retail media is often associated with CPG brands and high velocity products.
Mhm.
Can premium or high value
Yeah,
brands or luxury brands also benefit from these strategies? And I think it goes back to the same topic that we were.
absolutely.
Well, yeah, I'll leave you answer that.
No, no, no. It's a great question in my point of view. That if you're a high-end brand, there's been a lot of discussion of do you want to then be on Amazon where it's more discount, or is these retail media strategies, is it only for volume rather than actually showing great advertising? And I think that you know retailers are everywhere, and that absolutely you can have. There's a lot of retailers today that are saying, hey, we're becoming a branding medium. So if you
Hmm.
go to another category and saying, hey, you can have this ad here, but it needs to be a premium ad. You need to pay a premium price, and then all of a sudden, as a high-end product, you can be among either other high-end products or complementary products. And then it's a branding bit. Then it's not so much a discount or anything with a high volume, but you can really see that, okay, I love this retailer. This is my grocery market. This is my cosmetic retailer, whatever. And this is my electronics retailer. And the fact that, high-end products like an expensive TV or design products, whatever, can absolutely use this as a branding medium, a search medium, or otherwise, sponsorships, etc. So yeah, I think that this could definitely benefit high-end products as well.
If you
Another
allow
question.
me to say,
Go,
oh,
go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I want to share a success case here in Brazil. I
Yeah,
don't know if you
please.
know, but we have Mercado Libre is
Mhm.
the largest marketplace, is larger than Amazon here in Latam.
Mhm.
And they had a non-endemic brand. It's GWM. It's a car. It's not a popular car. It's a high-end car, and especially
Mhm.
station wagons and family cars, and for especially big cars for families. So they were able to target audiences that were able to afford this car, and also audience that is for exactly the cars of the station wagon or the sports car, whatever. They were able to make the target and to run the campaigns and schedule the test drives on Mercado Libre platform. So it's a
Exactly.
success case, out of the box. So I think it resonates with the question about Gustavo made and your talk. I think it's a good success case to share here for Latte.
Completely
Brilliant.
agree. Yeah. And I think exactly as you mentioned as well that the which we haven't touched upon yet, but audience building. So like the
Hmm.
segmentation, that for a high-end product, high velocity, whatever kind of business you have, you can now target specific people, which is in your segmentation and in your um, purchase group, your demography, your buying behavior. So retail media will be a huge lever for many of these high-end brands and low-end brands, etc., to know that okay, these are the people we want to target. Now we can do it in a better way than previously. Yeah, great point. Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks. All right. So I think we're good, to be honest. Frederick, Eric, thanks so much, man, for joining us and making the discussion
My
more
pleasure.
rich. Appreciate it. Frederick, it's the time to pitch. So, uh, if people want to know more about Kevel now, right, and Frederick, what's the best way, and how can you help them solve their problems, challenges?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that we have gone through it, but so I don't want to be like, ah, you can do this, 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 and this, because that's just too cringe. But um, but I think that to our previous points, that if you want a proper retail media business, and then you can either build it yourself, but then you need 300 engineers hired, etc., to build a proper tech behind it, or you can have these super competent, tech partners where you can build audience and
Mhm.
monetize that. You can have a self-serve for omnichannel for all platforms, and you can have a proper ad server where you can do like super technical and sophisticated things that'll be much smarter moving forward than what you could do relying on third-party cookies. So I would definitely say, just for a tech partner, I think that's a great idea. And I mean, if I may say so, I know I'm biased, but then I think that the most agile, ad server and just tech partner out there today, and some of the largest retailers, merchants, and marketplaces would agree, it is Kevil. But you also have super competent other tech partners such as SaaS Institute, Adform,
Mhm.
many of these, Citrus, all these. But I definitely think that for a tech partner, especially if you want volume, I think
Mhm.
that's a strong point. But there is still a case to be made that when you're very small, like, let's not lie to each other and say that you need a tech partner right to begin with or something like that. I think you also need to look at your maturity,
Mhm.
and say, okay, maybe just 1 or 2 FTEs to begin with, but at a certain point, you're like, okay, now it doesn't make sense to hire 4 more FTEs or 1 more FTE, because the price for having the tech partner to scale this is less than 1 FTE.
Mhm.
So then you can actually scale properly, right? So that is not a pitch, but it's just a recommendation. Yeah.
Mhm. That's great. We have one question. It's from Davor. So I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Davor. So how do you see what happens to retail media if AI agents will be buying products for their bosses? A prototype was shown by Sam Altman from OpenAI a month ago.
So I haven't seen a use case yet of AI agents buying product from their bosses, and by bosses meaning what exactly?
By
Maybe
pro,
you can.
yeah, he raised his hand. I'll hand the mic. Yes.
Perfect. Hi, Devon.
Hi.
Hello, Davor.
Yeah, I should turn on my camera. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, the concept is that you start buying something and then just let AI do the purchasing, finish the purchasing. All the input it takes is from your screen and from your keyboard and the mouse. So it takes over and does everything for you. And you can just tell it, okay, go on Amazon and buy me another shirt in
Mhm.
color. Uh, and it's like working software in the US, at least this prototype it was launched not so long ago. So yeah, I mean, boss is the one that tells his his
Uh,
software to finish everything for him. Yeah.
mhm. Of course, it's the CEO of the AI company that is asking this, but it's no, absolutely, it's a good point. And AI is moving so rapidly that we need to adjust on what to do next. And I've had many conversations as well with people from search, on how will they adapt to AI as well. So it is a thing that we need to address. I completely agree. And then it's to understand what the AI algorithm is looking for, right? So if you say, "Hey, buy me batteries and a TV on Amazon right now," then it's like, okay, but what kind of TV? What kind of batteries? What kind of so how do you affect that AI model? And then it becomes, then you need really sharp AI people, AI engineers, or even SEO people that would have an experience with how to affect an AI engine. So that is something that we're all trying to address, and it's a super interesting point. But it will be how to affect the AI model in the end, right? And if it will be to that point where everyone just shops via OpenAI, I don't think we're at there yet, and we have a bit of time before that will happen. But it is a good point that it is something that we need to look into in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We are not there yet, but this agentic idea, so like just let AI do some stuff for you, includes buying
Mm.
stuff. And
Mhm.
yeah, maybe the model will go and present you locally some variants, but now we don't know how it will look at the web page that it sees. Will it see banners, or did it only see the list of products? We have no idea how it will work. So it will be hard to do product
Exactly.
advertising there.
Yeah, no, I think it's a brilliant shout out, and it's back to the beginning of search, right? Like when Google came along, like how would you affect that when you search for an article? How would you affect that your article came up? And it's like, well, now we learned that you can do this, this, and this. You can include these keywords. You can, all these kind of things that you can do for SEO. Then we'll learn it for AI shopping as well. Yeah, but it's a very
I
good shout
agree. So we modified what we put online to like find the demand from the AI side. AI meaning SEO from Google. So you're doing SEO to actually feed their AI machine. So now we'll feed some other machine that will be produced. We don't know how
Exactly.
it will work, but yes, somehow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Appreciate it, Davor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Frederick. Well, very nice. And you see, I think that's the Evolve Commerce Club in a nutshell. Like sometimes I'm very a big believer in connecting dots and getting people together because it is my belief that from non-obvious connections, we can have obvious results at some point. So really appreciate this. Frederick, yeah, thanks so much for your time today. I think
My
really
pleasure.
enlightening and yeah, great to have you in the community. And for everyone else, every Thursday we have a session. So next Thursday we have another session coming up. Make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, Evolve Commerce Club. Yeah, and I'll see you on the other side on YouTube as well. All right.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.